You're listening to an IOE podcast.
Powered by UCL Minds.
This is Research for the Real World. Conversations with researchers about the paths they've taken to shape our everyday lives.
Pod Squad, are we all here?
Yes.
Yes, I'm here. Hi from Canada.
Oh yeah, how's all that going? What are you doing over there?
It's good, thank you. I'm currently in Montreal for a couple of months for a research project on my PhD. Though spring hasn't quite arrived here yet. We had a few centimetres of snow yesterday. How about you, Laura?
Good, thank you. Spring is sprung here in London and I'm enjoying the sunnier weather and cherry blossom.
It really is beautiful and it's such a nice boost for lots of new projects happening this term. Hold on, I thought I'd bring up something that I've seen on the IOE website. Did you both know that the IOE has organised a photo competition?
Yes, everyone's invited to submit images about what IOE means to them. The competition's open to students, staff, alumni, partners or anyone who's an interest in our work.
It would be nice to see those entries after not having been on campus very much for the last couple of years, and winners will get a framed print of their photo, and their photo will feature in an exhibition later in the year.
Interesting. I was thinking, if you were going to submit a photo, which would yours be, or what would you like to see?
I love the brutalist architecture and the feeling of walking into IOE. Say something on that theme. What about you, Emily?
I think I'd take a picture of Sarah's garden. You know, the community garden on level 5 of the building? What about you, Laura?
I think I'd go for the Bloomsbury Farmers Market on a Thursday. The food is always so delicious and it's always a great excuse to meet with friends and colleagues.
Good idea, Laura. I love that market. That would make such a good photo.
If you're a regular listener of the podcast, hopefully you'd know by now that IOE, UCL's Faculty of Education and Society, is celebrating a momentous 120 years. IOE has such a rich and diverse history, and it's been fascinating to hear more about that throughout this year.
And whether it be in art, picture form, discussions, writing, there's one commonality tying them all together.
What's that?
Think about what we do best.
Have a guess?
Research?
Exactly.
In this season of Research for the Real World, we're going to be celebrating the contribution that IOE postgraduate researchers, both past and present, make to society through their research.
And this is also a significant milestone for those involved with doctoral education, as the EdD programme celebrates 25 years of success.
So we've picked some UCL staff that we think will illustrate this perfectly. Laura, who are you speaking to this season?
I'm speaking to both Professor Anne Griffin and Dr. Adam Unwin. Anne is a clinical professor in medical education at UCL Medical School and is their research director. And Adam is an associate professor at IOE and works on the EdD programme, as well as a module leader, tutor and supervisor.
I think it made quite a lot of impact on me generally. So obviously, I'm now a professor of medical education research. Thank you, EdD, because that was a fantastic thing that I think helped me on the way. I think it impacted on me as a clinician. So one of the theoretical sort of methods or the methodologies I was interested in was that of narrative. And I know at one of my taught elements, I looked at different sorts of approaches to sort of understanding narratives, looking at psychoanalytic approaches, looking at sort of micro-linguistic approaches, and looking at the work of deconstruction. And it was fundamentally challenged all of the stuff that I thought about in terms of communication, because medical education or working as a doctor, you do a lot in narrative. Patients tell you lots of stories, but principally what you're interested in is more of a chronology or an event of what you tell you. So that happened to you and then what happened to you. But actually through understanding narrative in a much more theoretically sort of intelligent sort of way, I began to sort of think, well, I know they're telling me this, but why are they telling me that? Why doesn't their sort of narrative sort of make sort of sense, maybe in a sort of cohesive way? Because when you're going through a crisis, when you're sort of suffering from ill health, how can you present a story to a clinician that actually is cohesive from beginning to end, because you're struggling to make sense of this yourself as a person with sort of some sort of illness. So I felt that became fascinating to me, and I think I became a much better listener to what stories I was hearing patients tell me.
So plenty to talk about. What about you, Lauren?
I spoke to Aine McAllister, who is a lecturer in both languages in education and in refugee education, and is also a PhD student here at IOE.
Well, I mean, there is a breadth of research which recognizes that regaining access to higher education and or reestablishing oneself professionally is key to integrating oneself into a new life. And so then it's not a surprise then that many refugees and asylum seekers see access to higher education as very, very, very important for them in reestablishing themselves. Unfortunately, there are so many implicit and explicit barriers, one of which I think I have already referred to, and that is a structural inability to recognize existing qualifications. And that can represent itself in ways such as perhaps it's a teacher, for example, with years experience of teaching and teaching through English and perhaps even having a master's degree, not having difficulty accessing a PGCE because they don't have a GCSE in English.
I also spoke to Dr. Richard Freeman, who is the head of the Centre for Doctoral Education and the Deputy Director of UCL Bloomsbury and the East London Doctoral Training Partnership. A part of his work is to support the development of generic skills for postgraduate and postdoctoral researchers here at IOE.
So this was with Professor William Locke and Dr. Anthea Rose. And what we did was we did an online survey of just over 1,000 people who'd got PhDs in social sciences. We did a number of interviews with some of those people who'd filled in our questionnaire and some interviews with some kind of key people, both within universities and outside universities, to try to understand how people's needs were being met in relation to a social science PhD. And one of the things that actually came across to us very strongly was the problem about what happens when you complete that PhD. Now, I'll give you a specific example that was quite an interesting one because it came up quite a few times, that people would talk about there being a catch-22. So it was this problem really of not having a permanent contract. So we had interviewees who felt trapped in a cycle of no funding, no off-you publications, or experience of managing research projects, which meant that they weren't able to get a permanent post. But then that meant in turn that they weren't able to submit funding applications because they weren't permanently attached to a single higher education institution. So it's this problem of, it's almost a strange thing of, so those of us who've experienced this, you complete your PhD, effectively you get your handshake from your examiners who say, congratulations, you are now a doctor. And, you think this is amazing. It's not just even I got my undergraduate degree or a master's, my name changes, I can become doctor. And they go, that's well done. Now there's the door, go away. You're done. And it's like, I don't want to be done. This is my first step on my journey. But the following steps can be really difficult.
What about you, Emily?
I'm speaking to Dr. Georgia Pavlopoulou. She's a lecturer based at the Department of Psychology and Human Development at IOE, and is the lead autism workforce trainer at the Anna Freud Center.
My work has a neurodiversity ethos that is very much looking at the experiences of people. One of the ways that I apply this into everyday practice working with communities is co-creating and co-delivering mental health trainings. So for instance, at the moment I'm working with Anna Freud Center at Autism and 30 autistic people in order to support those who are supporting autistic people in inpatient units. We know that for many autistic people, inpatient mental health units are unsuitable and very often traumatic places. We also know that many people end up in inpatient units because they don't have community support. Being inside an inpatient mental health unit may exacerbate or increase the difficulties that autistic people are experiencing. There are many reasons for this, but often the environment is distressing. The neurotypical staff experience their environment from a neurotypical way of being, so they might not understand the sensory or the communication challenges of autistic people. And the staff may lack the experience and support needed to make the adjustments required to provide support, routine that fits the needs of autistic people.
So listen up.
And get ready for season 15 of Research for the Real World.
Right here on the IOE podcast.
Research
Research for the Real World is produced by IOE Marketing and Communications and IOE Research Development. The theme music was created by Rob Cochran. Tatiana Sotero Diaz is the series advisor, Amy Leibowitz is the series producer, and Jason Ilagan is the executive producer of the IOE podcast.
Thanks so much for downloading and listening to this IOE podcast.